that would be put together in a generic form. And then how many need to be built. So with this information now, you can start actually doing your calculations. So this is the first part. Then the calculations, before you can figure out how much floor space you need to know how much equipment, how many tables you're gonna need, how many desks for the offices. So you have to discuss how many employees you're gonna have. Then you also have to discuss the flow between departments, how product's gonna flow. So it's a more detailed version of the process layout that we did. And then you can go ahead and you can determine the specific requirements for equipment, office furniture and that, and come up with the estimated space you're gonna need. So you get data, you use it to calculate number of people, how much space you're gonna need, and then with the actual flow of the product, we're gonna do what we did last week, and we're gonna create an activity relationship chart so that you can create actual alternatives. To get actual alternatives, the process is going to follow one alternative through this method and one alternative through this method. Now, the reason you need all this other data is so that you can figure out how much floor space each department's gonna have. And then once you figure out the spatial relation of the departments, then you put them together to form a physical building, a block. Some of you did that in this last week's assignment. Some of you stopped short of doing that. So that will give you two alternatives that are reasonable versions of what a company should look like. Now, you could do that just by random blind, taking a piece of paper, drawing a rectangular building, and just sort of throwing some offices in there and some departments, but it's not going to be based on anything. So this all is a logical way to put together a facility plan. So what you'll do after you create your alternatives, we're going to discuss methods that you could use to optimize data. You'll have two initial layouts. You'll have two initial layouts. One from the SLP process, one from the graph-based process. All right? Then what you're going to be doing is you can try to optimize. I don't believe I'm making it a requirement. I have to go back and read what I'm asking you. Actually, I'm not sure if I asked you to make an attempt to discuss if it works, or if I just wanted you to discuss how optimization works in a project. So you'll have to read that part. But the next thing would be is after you have created two layouts, then try to see if you can improve on them. You can use the oh my gosh, the pairwise comparison. You could use the methods that we're going to go over today, trying to locate departments. But you can use the optimization routines that we've studied so far, and then you're going to create actual plot plans. All right, so this builds up. Now, the other thing I wanted to discuss is all right, let me stop sharing. Oops. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to point out.
I've said this several times already, you need to know your audience and you need to be writing to your audience. That includes the way you write and it includes the level of the discussion. So a couple of thoughts along those lines. This is not an academic school research report. What you're doing is creating a plan that's going to be read by ITC management. So what you want to do is you want your discussion that will guide them through how you go about the tools you use and how you and what they do and what your results are from using the tools. Imagine that you're explaining this to somebody like your parents or to a group of friends or something like that. That might be one way to look at it. But don't go into the academics like it's a textbook. I think some students, for good reasons, you guys are used to doing stuff like that, think that this is just to show that you understand, you can repeat the academic portion of the project. What I want you to do is apply it in a readable, thoughtful manner for ITC management people. So they don't need to know, they don't need to understand they need to understand each step you're going through. So as you build the project, following through the template, you need to explain to them in good, simple, straightforward terms the scientific methods that you're applying, and in a way that they'll understand and have confidence in your conclusions. If nobody can understand what you're writing or what you're saying, it's hard to have confidence in what you put together. So it's got to be clearly written. The data and the facts that you discuss have to be consistent, and they have to be connected to each other. That's one of the things I look for when I go back through your project. For example, if you say there's a certain number of people, I'm going to go back and see where you came up with that number, and it should match. It has to match. And there has to be I have to understand how you came up with those numbers. It can't just be a sort of, that we're going to have 25 people that are in the offices. You have to explain where those 25 people came from. You have to explain why you need so many manufacturing people. Now, one of the teams I talked with did a very nice job of for the parking of explaining in a good, well-written single paragraph the results of the parking, what the requirements were, and the results of the parking. For example, they would mention that the parking will be based on will be based on 8-foot 6-inch vehicles, parking at 70-degree angle with double. I was going to say stalls. Using a W4 double wide aisles. Go ahead. Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say double lane? I believe is what you were saying, right?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. It's not double. It's a double wide aisle using a W4 configuration.
Right.
All right. So and then they finished that one paragraph by saying this resulted in an overall requirement of so many square feet for parking facilities. You may want to, for some of you who are estimating the number of handicapped, estimating some other information, just put that in there and give the final result. Then the detailed calculations on how you arrived at that need to be put in the appendix. So this might go back to the calculations for the number of equipment you need. Well, you're going to have different types of machine. The floor space. So you're going to have different types of machines. So Some of the machines, well, there's several different types. There's lathes, mills, drills. There's a station to do the brazing. You need to give some background information on how you need to show your calculations on how you arrived at how many lathes, mills, and other types of machines you needed, assembly tables based on the standard hours and the number of units that you need to produce. So again, this is where the data you collected is being applied. Then you need to come up with the square footage and give some explanation for that. Now, you don't need to put all that information in the body of the report. So what you can do is put that the facility in the Department 5, where all the milling will be performed, requires 8 milling machines, for a total square footage, including aisle space, space for storage of material, work in process material, and aisle, I think I said aisles, but explain it, and that will require so many square feet. Reference Appendix 5 for detailed calculations. Now, me as a reader, I'll see the important information there. But if I want to go back and double check how you came up with your calculations, I can go to Appendix 5. All right? Another thing, to go back to the parking for a minute, when you reference something, and I didn't say this to the team that I talked to about this, but when you say something like using a W4 configuration, you need to reference where you got a W4 from. What is a W4? So things like that need to be properly referenced. And in this case, it would be either the textbook or it would be the original material that the textbook got it from, which, by the way, the textbook has its references, which you can copy. But if you're going to put in information for ITC management, you need to reference where it came from. The restroom requirements. Everybody put down the restroom requirements, but nobody referenced where in the heck they came up with the requirement for three restrooms and 1 urinal. If anyone wanted to check, where would they go to check for something like that? So you need to make sure that you reference these. And again, the textbook will have a reference itself inside of it. So you can go to the textbook, find the page and the charts, and you can reference what the textbook referenced as the original source. What I've done here, I think I've already given this information to you guys. If you go to the university library, let me open this link here. I'm going to need to, let me show that. If you go to the, you should be seeing a CSUN website. If you go to the website, over here on the left side, cite your sources. So this will tell you how to do proper source citing, which you'll need to do in your other classes. And if any of you, some of you are graduate students, if any of you go on to do any graduate research or more advanced projects, you'll need to understand how to cite or where to go looking for that on how to do citing. Also, let me go back. Just for time reasons, I'm not going to go into this, but I did a quick Google search and how to create appendix. You can just do a quick Google search on how to create appendices, and you can get some examples of formats that you can use for your project. Okay, so to make them look good. So those are a couple of things I wanted to pass along to you guys based on what I've been seeing. Does anybody have any questions? Rishikesh, are you okay? Any questions?
No question. No question.
Okay on that? All right. All right. So let me know if you have any, if there are any questions, anything come to mind during the lecture, go ahead and let me know about that too. All right? Everybody okay? Okay. So let me go ahead. We'll